The bounty hunters. Think I might have a bug, going to bed after posting this and the author's note. The glowing slug women stare at them in seemingly growing horror as they take in the scene. Bongani says nothing as he tries to decipher their expressions. They're the only source of light in the area, and he has no idea if their expressions are fear or rage. Halmara, one of them says in a quivering tone. Ko yal ra, batu halmara, another next to her snaps. What do y'all think they're saying? Sally asks him. Well, halmara seems to be some word for outsider or something. The first use was in fear, though, so language barrier aside. This isn't something easily spoken through. They're afraid of us. Bongani states, and one of the rusty spears is jabbed towards him, and he bats it away with a casual swing of the warhammer. It gets jabbed at him again, and he catches it and forces it back with the hammer. He feels the slug woman start to push against the spear, but the brittle haft cracks and breaks in half. There is an intake of breath from the slugs, and they just stare as the remains of the spear clatter on the floor. Halmara, one of them whispers, followed by others, and soon enough the whole crowd is whispering, Halmara. Calm, Bongani begins to say, and at least 7 spears are launched at him. He shifts out of the path of most of them, and he deflects the last 2 that he hadn't completely dodged. The clattering of spears hitting each other as they fall to the ground. Whatever spell was cast is now broken, and the cry of Halmara echoes out, and while several of the now disarmed slug girls retreat while shouting and the rest try and press in. Click bang! The approach of the slugs stops as Sally shoots into the ceiling and dislodges a few clumps of clay. She then lowers the gun to point at them and loudly cocks back the gun. The threat is undeniable. There is a flurry of words, but Halmara keeps coming back in, usually full of fear or quavering. We do not know your language, Bongani says slowly. Longwa? One of the slug women asks, and he sighs. What is Halmara? Sally asks slowly. Her saying the word sets off a small cacophony among the slugs, and several more retreat. Well, they're afraid of it, if nothing else. Well, if the word means so much, Bongani asks before pointing to Sally. Halmara? The clear question in his tone leaves little if any room for misinterpretation. This seems to confuse the slugs, and they start talking among themselves. He then points to the captured Adili. Halmara? Again more confusion. He then points to himself. Halmara? Marik Batu Halmara is the response he gets. Marik Batu Halmara, Bongani asks, and one of the slugs gets really frustrated with that and starts sliding up babbling fast. She seems to get that there's a clear lack of communication going on. She's shaking her hands up and owning a strange motion and making repeated gia sounds. Marik Batu Halmara, she says, poking Bongani in the stomach. Marik, he starts to repeat, and she chants gia over and over again. Utal, she corrects him. Utal Batu Halmara? Bongani tries. Fur, she replies. So gia means no? Fear is yes, and Autal is me, Sally asks. And Marik is you. Batu might mean you, and Halmara is a word they have for me? Bongani asks in confusion. Urg, Adili groans out as she starts to come to. We need some privacy for this, Sally notes as she looks towards a crowd of slug women. We need answers no matter what. The slug women with rifles and pistols had been quickly disarmed and had downright surrendered when Pukey revealed that he had managed to repair his old broken plasma sword. The sight alone of him holding the child in his left mechanical arm and the glowing white blade in his right freezes all of them, and they just stare at him. He had actually planned on using it more for light than as a weapon, as he was still very aware that he was holding a baby, but wanted something both bright and deadly in case he was rushed. Ulga Halmara, one of the women calls out, even as many other slug women back away in fear and awe. Koyal Ulga Halmara! This breaks the nerves of the natives, and they retreat behind the curtain with wails of Ulga Halmara. What? Slytherin asks, and Pukey considers his sword before dousing it. The blade. These creatures are likely highly photosensitive. The plasma might not have had any dangerous radiation to give out, but it looked even more dangerous and scared them away, Pukey says before finally noticing that his communicator is going off frantically. With a fight around him and his arm full of squirmy, boneless baby, he hadn't noticed. Is something... We've lost the hat signal, Litha says. Litha! He intercepted and joined a hostile teleport. Governess Emerald Shell has made contact with and has been arming underground natives to Mordonan, a glowing slug-like species. Unknown language, heavy dampness in the air. The governess put on a whole show about trying to slowly help a species up and showed us an infant of their kind before we called her on her mounting lies. She threw the child at me and made an attempt to escape while her guard attacked. These natives have no idea what they're looking at, but are utterly terrified of plasma swords. Inform the Imperials so we can avoid a genocide. This situation has gotten both weird and delicate. Right, I'll get on that. You're going to look for the hat, I assume? We need to get our people out, and then get some proper linguists and ambassadors down here to sort out the massive mess that's been made and about to be made. Do you think he's doing all right? I'm more concerned about population numbers of these people if they truly try to press him. The man has the capacity to... Pukey begins before a rush of water floods into the room like someone flushed a toilet. He might very well have begun ending them. I think that we need to go in order to save these idiots from the hat. Excuse me. Aduli groans and then wakes up as she's pressed against the wall, and her eyes snap open to see the furious face of the hat, backlit by the glow of the people. He watches as she goes from dazed to wide awake, and then tries to squirm. But Bongani has taken his time and also snapped on some disruption bands. Good morning, fool. Now you're going to lead us out, or I'm going to use my plasma pistol straight upwards and climb up the slag. And considering we're under an aquifer, I'm sure you can imagine how unpleasant that would be. For you. You? But the people. You would drown them. Right now, I don't even believe that they're real. You've lied and tried to pull a fast one, so the only thing that's going to happen is that you're going to show me the way out in the next 10 minutes, or I burn my way to the surface and use you as a meat shield every step of the way. There is no negotiation. There is no nonsense. That's unfair. You're the one that brought baby hostages into this. You do not get any form of high ground, Bongani says before flipping her around and grabbing her by the back of the shell. Now, which way? You can't do this. I'm a criminal lunatic that threw a baby at my friend. Fuck any protest you could possibly have. I'm done already, Bongani says. Wait, first off, where is my sister? I saw those spears. They have her mark. Where is she? I don't. Adili begins and gets a heavy shake. I don't. He shakes her harder and longer until she starts to go limp and then stops. The dazed woman is then grabbed around the face by Sally, who glares at her. Where is my sister? Follow the smell of the forge. It smells of earth and slime down here. There is no smell of a forge. Sally protests and Adili smirks at her. Not my problem, Adili states, and Sally presses the barrel of her gun into her forehead. It will be if you don't tell me where... Sally begins to threaten before Bongani moves Adili out of the way. Enough, we get moving. We move loud, we pay attention, and we'll find our way out. Remember, little girl, 10 minutes is the most it will take, and you will despise it if I have to climb out. There's no point to cooperating anyways. You've ruined my career, ruined my escape, and it's done. So just shoot me and get it over with. You're giving up that easily? I'm beaten. There's nothing to be gained from me cooperating. So no, I hope you both get lost in these tunnels and starve to death in the darkness. Damn you both. Adili grits out and Bongani frowns. What's the matter, Halmara? Angry? What does that even mean? Oh, wouldn't you like to know? She asks and he sneers. Fine, straight up, and then we systematically search this place. Even at risk of drowning Susie Lou, the people are amphibious, but Begrob are not. Adili mocks and Sally sucks in a breath. I see. So she is down here, Bongani muses. We've already opened up a place where the water can come in. What if she's already dead? Maybe. Adili mocks, meaning she's alive, Bongani assures her. How do you know that? If Susie Lou was guaranteed dead, then she'd be taunting us about it, going on and on about our failure. She's trying to hurt us. Or maybe confuse you, which means I can say, Adili begins only to be shaken. Bongani nods to Sally. She's going to deliberately try and screw with us. Gag her and move on. It's time to move. He orders and Sally gleefully does so, even as Bongani shifts his grip on Adili before they start moving. Is there a reason we're going this way? Sally asks. No, but it's as good as any other. Our closest thing to a guide will outright try to sabotage us at every turn, so she's best ignored. Bongani says before grinning, Get your knife out and start scoring walls. We'll mark where we've been and move in a spiral pattern to try and find any way out. We'll get there eventually, especially if we find enough places near the surface enough to get back into contact with the others. Wait, we're cut off? Of course, the only reason or way they wouldn't have called us the second we were teleported out is if the signal was blocked somehow, which means the tritite traces in the earth are blocking it all. Bongani explains. Great, fine. I'll carve this out. Let's get moving. His communicator starts beeping as it starts losing signal, and Itchy activates another signal booster and embeds it in the wall before they continue on. The boys had gone ahead of the group, who were under orders to toss the office and look for any information on the locals. Onyx was going out with Jade to get the baby onto the chainbreaker, so Cindy could give it a few scans to make sure it was healthy. Meanwhile, the boys were going after the hat with Slithern with them, as his heat-sensing pits would be damn useful underground. Walls that were substantially colder than others were quickly determined to have water behind them and were left completely alone. Then, after a bit of trekking, Pukey holds up his hand and sniffs the air. Fire? I smell it too, Airfarce confirms. The air is a little warmer as well. It comes kind of from the right. Slithern adds in and Pukey looks back. You sure? I am. All right, we're going right then, Pukey says, and they make a turn at the next intersection and begin moving down, the smell slowly growing stronger and stronger until they come across a doorway with heavy bars across it and a flap. The locals are actively avoiding them as they've cleared away, leaving fresh trails as they did so, and the door is therefore unguarded. It's locked, so Pukey knocks. Let me out, a voice demands from the other side. Susie Lou? Pukey asks. A man. Susie Lou? You some kind of bribe from that bitch? Because if you are, then you're cracked in the head as well as the shell. You mean Sally? He asks, and he hears a gasp and a lot of steps. A face appears in the slot, one that looks a lot like Sally's. Y'all know my sister. Yep, stand back from the door. I'm going to stick a burning sword through it. How far back? Take 5 big steps away to be completely sure. He instructs her. Okay, go! She confirms after a few moments, and he flicks on his plasma sword and eats through the lock and handle. Then he swings it open and deactivates the weapon. Just in time, too, as he's suddenly got a Begrob blacksmith grabbing onto him and weeping into his chest in thanks.